waist in or out. This will be determined from the tailor, according to the wear guide. To take in or out the waist is side seams only, side back seams only, or center back seams only. Depending on how much to take in or out, a combination of seams may be marked. The hips may also be marked to take in or out along with the waist. Alter at side back panel, nail coats only. You can begin by opening the bottom of the jacket by carefully removing the lining from the hem on either side of the jacket. Just one side is opened. Start ripping with the seam ripper at least 2 inches from the front facing seam and about 4 inches from the back vent opening. Remove stitches that's holding the bottom hem to side seams. You want enough opened to turn the coat inside out and mark with chalk the amount needed to take in or out. Also, open at least 8 inches of the back vent, which is hidden under the outer vent. You will be using this opening to complete closing the lining to the shell hem. Mark the chalk where the pins are. Balance the amount that is needed taken in or out on each seam. Follow the same procedure on the lining as well. Try to avoid altering the back side seam where the bi-swing vent is attached. This can be taken in, but you must have a high skill level in time to remove the top stitching and reshape the back seam in order for the back vent to lay flat and smooth. Note: you will need to open the seam and mark on the wrong side of the amount needed to let out the seams. If additional seams are needed to take in or out, do a combination of side panel back seams and center back seams. Balance the amounts between all 3 outer shell and lining seams. Once your seams are marked, you can pin your seams together to make sure the fabric is flat while stitching. Fold back and pin the side panel seam and underarm to expose the existing seam, kneading just enough to get your sewing machine needle and foot onto the seam. Begin stitching one seam 1 inch below the armhole to start a smooth transition from the original seam into the amount needed to take in or let out. Merge stitching into the waist and then taper off smoothly into the original seam of the hips. And as shown here, we are taking in the seams, taking out the seams. Do the same steps to take in the lining. Make sure the side panel waistline seam matches to where the bi-swing back pleat ends, with no puckering in the seams. Trim excess fabric that equals the same amount as the original. You do not want your seams to be bulky or restrict your seams from laying smooth. Press all seams open except for the lining, which is usually pressed together in one direction. Once the sides are pressed to satisfactory, turn coat with right side out through the back center vent or bottom hem opening. Clean finish the bottom hem by using the original seam margins. Align the lining seam manually or pin together with the bottom coat hem to lay flat while under the machine presser foot. Sew the shell and lining seams together. Machine stitch to the back tack hem to the side back seam to keep the hemline from falling. Pull the closed hem through the back undervent opening that you had ripped apart earlier to close the coat now completely. Closing the back undervent by aligning both the lining and the outer shell together by the original 3/8 inch seam margins to clean finish the opening. Sew with 1/8 inch edge stitching starting from the top of the vent through finished hem and back tack at the end of the stitch line. Press coat thoroughly.